I'm out here right now foraging for mushrooms in the wild. You can see I got my little canvas mushroom bag. Probably hear the major road out here by where I'm at. Been listening to a lot of audiobooks, podcasts, but I like to come out here, just walk and hike. Now it's kind of getting the spring mushroom season, so looking for mushrooms while I'm out here with my dog. And I like to just kind of turn off my music here. I mean, you can still kind of hear cars, but for the most part, it's pretty quiet. And I don't think enough. What I have been really pondering, I read a quote when I was reading about Carl Jung and reading some of his stuff. But he said, unless you make your unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. And that, it's been fucking with my head lately. It's really, I mean, it's deep. There's a duck around here. We'll kind of leave. Not sure if you can see him making noise. Doesn't want me to record this video. But unless you make your unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. And I look at my life. I think we like to ascribe meaning to a lot of things. And sometimes there is. I don't know. The older I get, the less sure I am of God. I'm not sure if there's, the more I learn about our brain and science and evolution and how we've evolved as humans and where we're at now, it's interesting really to think about, because a lot of the things, back in the day, I mean, the Aztecs would say, oh, if it's not raining, not the Aztecs, but, older tribes, if it's not raining, the gods are mad at us, so we have to sacrifice a human. And now we can understand why, and it rains and different reasons for that. But that's really been messing with my head, because I've been really struggling to get going on my work. Part of it is I think I'm not fully jazzed about, doing the digital marketing. But it can definitely help generate some income and some money for me, and that'll be important for some other ventures. And so I'm trying to power through it, and maybe that's just wrong in general, but I think a lot of it too is just I've been trying for a few months, haven't got any clients, getting a little discouraged. And so I know definitely if I get a client, start working with them, I got to just build that confidence. That's what it is a lot. Been listening to a book by Robert Greene, who wrote The 48 Laws. He wrote Mastery, The Art of Seduction, a few other things. Really cool, all science-based, research-based. But I'm reading a book about fearlessness. He wrote it with 50 Cent. It's really cool. But I've been thinking a lot about the fear that I have, and that's kind of what is really holding me back and preventing me from moving forward. And then I kind of see synchronicities in life, and sometimes I realize like maybe it just wasn't the right time in life, and so I kind of may have not done stuff, and I was upset at myself for not doing them. It's kind of like sometimes in life there's times to do things, and then they flow and they work well. I saw that when I moved out here to Denver. I'd been wanting to apply to this job, and I didn't get it. I didn't apply yet, and I was just stressed out and tired at my old job, and just then I kind of, by not doing it, got more upset at myself and angry and self-loathing and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden I found myself, my roommate asked me to move out when I was in Seattle. I found myself needing to do that. And then all of a sudden I sent that job an email here in Denver. They got back to me. I was out, flew out. I sent them an email on Sunday. They got back to me Monday. I emailed them. Then I got transferred to the general manager. And then I was out here that Friday to interview. I flew out, bought a plane ticket. I was off Fridays and Saturdays at my old job. And I emailed a few friends who had if anyone knew of an apartment or a roommate. One of my buddies his friend had just told him the day before, like, hey, I'm moving out. I need someone to sublease. If you know anybody, let me know. And so I got that apartment. So within So I had been trying to apply for a few months, just kind of depressed and not doing anything, or, had other things come up in life, making excuses. Then all of a sudden, when it just was like the right time, I guess, and I got the job, put in my notice. So I went here on a Saturday, not even a week after I first emailed them, looked at that apartment, put in my notice on Monday, and by that time I had the job, I had an apartment here in Denver at a great price. I put in my notice that Monday. 2 weeks later, I drove out. So within 3 weeks, I was already here in Denver. So I think sometimes life does happen like that, where it's just right timing. I read this chapter a lot in the Tao Te Ching, chapter 48, at the end of it, and there's different translations, but it says, life is run by letting things take their course. It cannot be run by interfering. There's different translations, but I've noticed that in life, that sometimes the Tao Te Ching is all about flowing, going in the harmony of life, going with the flow. Not, it's like if a door is closed in life, don't continue to try to open it. There's one thing to overcome fear, but it's going with the harmony and the flow. And, it doesn't mean that the door won't be hard to open. It just means not fighting against life and what's happening. And part of me is thinking maybe it's that, and maybe this will happen with my business, where I haven't really been emailing and reaching out to people. And maybe when all of a sudden I'll get an appointment, who knows? But that also makes me think of Carl Jung, where he's saying, unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. And a lot of that, I think, is happening now, where I'm like, oh, maybe this is God's plan. Maybe this is what's supposed to happen in life. And that's why I'm not working. And I think ultimately it's kind of bullshit. And there is something to be said about going into harmony with life and going with the flow. But then there's another thing to be said about overcoming your fear and when things are hard, not running away. And so I think there's a mix of like overcoming the right things and going into the fear for the right things. And I don't know. It's been interesting to think about. And I think ultimately I really, I got some shit in my past that I think is really holding me back, and it's that fear. It's just holding me back. It was more like ignorance is bliss, or I call it blind ignorance, where it's like I really just, I moved to a lot of different places, lived in a lot of different places, and a lot of that wasn't that I was fearless. I just didn't think about the bad things for whatever reason. My mind would just get solely focused on the good things. So when I moved to New York City, I didn't think about all the bad things that could happen or how expensive it might be. I just was like, yeah, this is the next thing. And along the way, life kind of beat the shit out of me, and I lost that. And now here I am. I think it's a middle ground maybe of trying to go with the flow, go with the harmony of life. Looking, you can do that metaphysically and say, oh God, and there's a divine plan. Or you can also say, like, evolutionarily, this is what my genetics lead me to. This is, the way I was brought up and all the things that happened to me and genetics and everything like that. These are the jobs that it led me to want to do, and these are the things that are good for me. Or you could look at more metaphysically as God, but ultimately it seems like it's a balance of overcoming the right fear, overcoming fear, but not wasting your time at, who is that said, I think it was it was some writer, not Hunter S. Thompson, but they said, getting good at the wrong thing. They were talking about mastery and getting good, and they were saying that getting good at the wrong thing is the ultimate failure. And I think the answer might be somewhere between that, of going into your fears, getting motivated, but also realizing that maybe if you're procrastinating a lot, and there's a reason. Maybe it is you're lazy and you got to develop discipline and courage. Maybe it's your brain saying this isn't the right way. And so I think it's trying to trust your instincts, quieting yourself, learning to intuition, or quiet yourself, learning to listen to your intuition, and then finding peace. And finding peace and developing confidence and being fearless and going into that. But I think it's easier to be fearless when it's something that you really thing is the outcome. And I don't think I've developed that enough with my goals and my businesses, is creating a strong enough why. Nietzsche said that a man that has a strong enough why can overcome any how. And I think right now, deep down I kind of know, but then I forget about it when things get hard, and I just need to write it down more and focus on the whys, and what am I doing and why, and what are my goals and why, and then writing down what will happen if I don't. Because often in life, the things that, pulling is things that you want to do, and they're pulling you towards your goal. But the things that you're running away from and what will happen if you don't achieve those goals, unfortunately, can often be stronger. And so I think that's a big thing, is meditating more, focusing on my why, and then what will happen if I don't. Because right now life is happening. It's been like almost 3 months since I first started this. And, I maybe spent total a month really not doing at all anything, barely. Or maybe I had automated emails set up, but there was no heart or joy or, effort really put into that. And so, got to get my shit together. I got to be patient, but I think right now I also need a smack in the face to get my shit going. And I got to write that why. Otherwise, life is going to fucking pass me by like it has. I'm 30, spent 3 months on this business. And sometimes things take time, and I don't have as much experience within this as other people that I've developed friendships, relationships and with, but I'm just kind of meandering through life and just barely kind of getting by and doing just enough, or I'm not just enough, but like doing just enough to work and live, but not enough to really achieve my goals. And that's where writing the why and overcoming my past and the things that are, the things where I keep repeating myself are happening from, is kind of overcoming those, healing the past so I can move forward. And I'm not doing it enough, and I gotta think sometimes you just gotta fucking go for it. Just straighten your back, put your shoulders back, grab your nuts and move forward, because right now, I don't know any other way, but I know once I start to do that, I think things will start to happen, and I'll start to build confidence, and then it just becomes momentum.